So, hello, Kay. How are you doing?
I'm really great, Chris. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you. Happy Saturday morning.
Happy Saturday. Woo! And last time we spent a lot of time talking about attitude, didn't we?
Yeah, we did A for attitude, and
Yeah,
we decided to alphabetize. So
we
I
did.
don't know how you say that.
Yeah, but I think it's right. Alphabetize it, sounds good. So this time we're going to focus on B, and we're going to focus on B for beliefs. That is a huge topic. We could be talking about all kinds of different beliefs, but I guess one of the key things is what is a belief, and so that might, and I know from your great work with Happy Brain that to a certain degree you've got that in a nice package. So, and I, yeah,
Mm.
and I use that term loosely, right? But so yeah, so tell us a bit about that.
Thank you. Well, yes, well, the happy brain training, as you know, is really I try and make very complex things as simple as possible because I really want. Well, I love John Laval's phrase, if you really know something, you can tell it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And
Yes.
that's what I endeavor to do. And so in that particular core training, everything's very prop-based, metaphoric, 3D, very simple and playful. And had I thought it through, I could have brought you an example, but I hadn't. But yet, what we look at in the brainscape, the model of the brain, is that through time we build up metaphorically red flags and green flags that tell us what to move away from and what to move towards.
Oh,
Those flags, they're not really flags, they're codes inside the brain. And those codes are cemented in with big emotions. So you've got big emotions that don't feel nice for stay away, and big emotions that feel nice for move towards. So that's the basis of it. And then you go, okay, so how do those codes get
yeah,
put in place? Because each code runs its own program.
right,
So you get a sensory stimulus from the outside world. You see something, you hear something, smell, taste, touch, through one of the five primary senses, and then that code gets ignited and it runs the program.
right,
And um, and and then we say, okay, so how do the codes actually get in place? And they are in two simple ways the brain learns to cherish to prioritize those codes that we will call beliefs.
yeah,
One is through repetition. So if you live, for example, let's take a very simple example. If you live in a family where every day the God is God is love, God is love, God is love, God is love, that repetition of information going into the brain, repetition, the brain goes, here's something I know, I recognize, I can predict what's going to happen. And so it insulates those pathways. But if you equally live in a family where, God is awful, God is awful, God is awful, God is awful, God is, the same thing happens. And I use God in a generic term, but
yeah.
whatever you're constantly exposed to and the brain is constantly interacting with in some way gets insulated in myelin.
So then,
So
does that mean that your environment is shaping your beliefs? Because in both situations, you've got the God is good or God is bad or whatever, but
yeah,
it's still creating the a neural pathway or
yeah,
sheet there,
yeah.
which then, as you said, the code kind of is a representation of the belief.
It becomes that. So,
Yeah. Okay.
for example, let's take another example, one that I spoke to recently, where a single mum bringing up a single boy and the single mum had a belief, all men are bastards, all men are bastards, all men are bastards, all men are bastards. Well, that creates a code inside the kid's brain. And as we know, and we'll come to, I'm sure, in this conversation, we can bust these beliefs in a heartbeat. We can reprogram them, but we're looking at how do they actually get installed. And so
Yeah.
repetition is one of repetition. So incoming data, the brain constantly accesses that information and does something with it and then prioritizes it. So that's the repetition is one way to get one of those big flags, things to stay away from, things to go towards inside. And the other one, the other big one is a really big emotion. So bam. And that's how trauma gets encoded in the brain, of course.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just get one event and the emotional response is so huge that the brain goes, whoa, I'm holding on to this, I'm prioritizing this forever. And that's where we get phobias and traumas, that just that one event for some reason sets off such a powerful emotional cascade or neurochemical cascade, and fast electrical currents and so on. And so the brain goes, oh, I got to prioritize that. So and that's where Richard Bandler's work, where, in a heartbeat, you can create a belief, install a belief, and you can also dissolve a belief. We know that can happen really quickly.
Yes, and so I was thinking there now, when as you said that, sorry, my process flow brain was going, and I was kind of thinking, so environment there, but then there's some kind of strategy, and that might be linked to the emotions, and then that links to a belief, right? That's what was just in my head. So I need you to decode that now.
Well, like we said at the beginning, Chris, we could run a 3-week symposium on this
We
topic. So
can.
let me just spread it out. And this is a whole module in one of
It's
my
brilliant. This is
trainings. I'm trying
brilliant.
to condense it in. But an example would be, um, a toddler crawling along the wall, crawling along the floor, sorry, not up the wall. That's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different
That's
kind of
super.
toddler,
That's
super toddler.
spider toddler.
And
Yeah,
toddlers crawling along the floor, um, with a relatively blank brainscape, doesn't have a lot of codes to
yeah,
run programs yet because it's gathering sensory data, with a natural curiosity to move towards things and explore them through the primary senses. So it moves towards something and it sees it. Is there a sound? It'll pick it up, it'll smell it, it'll taste it, it'll pull it apart.
yeah,
And nobody has told that toddler that the thing is called a spider.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
a natural curiosity for what is in the environment.
yeah,
And if we just put aside the concept that some information is passed through
yeah,
genes, but we'll
yeah,
just put that
yeah,
aside for now
yeah,
and stick with simple raw sensory data. And so if the, let's say, primary caregiver says, oh, that's called a spider. Spider. Can you say spider? Then a learning code begins. And somewhere in there, there has to be the early formation of a belief
yeah,
that a spider is a thing,
yeah,
and it's nothing to be feared. It's something of interest. And so that code can then gather more information through time and open the possibility for the child growing up to be the world's leading expert on spiders, for example. But if the primary caregiver screams
yeah, yeah,
and shrieks loud incoming electricity into the
yeah,
brain, which the mirror neurons immediately have to copy.
Yeah.
So if it does that, then we're already setting up a code and the foundations of the belief that whatever is in your present awareness is not good,
Yeah.
because primary caregiver said that. And so that begins the formation of what we talk in NLP about a phobia.
Yeah.
Very often it's just one event that happened with a primary caregiving giving of this such an intense um, it, reaction that that whole the organism who in that moment of time believes that it's likely to die or perish in some way goes, whoa, remember this, and glues in place all the fragments of the sensory data with real big stress chemistry, the cortisol and the adrenaline and so on. And so the brain's going to prioritize that.
So that becomes their strategy.
Then they run a program
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
avoidance
yeah, 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 yeah,
thereafter.
yeah, yeah. So,
And
so someone's belief can make you do that before you even have the chance to decide whether it's
exactly.
a good or bad, or resourceful or unresourceful belief.
Exactly. And then later in the grown-up world,
Yeah,
we a lot of my work is, I spend time with people, inviting them to explore the beliefs that serve them
yeah,
and the beliefs that no longer serve them.
yeah,
So somebody who cannot operate if there's a spider in the house, to keep the metaphor going, that's not working out for you very well. You don't have much personal freedom. So we say, okay, let's have a look at that belief around spiders, that little code inside your brain. And are you willing to swap it out for a more useful belief? Yes or no. If the answer's no, fine, keep it. That's your choice. But if the answer's yes, well then the change is relatively straightforward. The neurohypnotic repatterning or any of the techniques involved in changing either the chemistry or
yeah.
the distortion of sensory data that's being put together in that code. So that's always fundamental to me. I want all of my students to understand that on a really simplistic level, we've got these little flags inside our brain that are operating the strategies,
Yes, yeah,
running the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
programs.
yeah,
And my only question ever is it fit for purpose for the future that you want? So let's bring it up into the picnic blanket metaphorically, and then you decide which ones you take away and which ones you keep. But what gets in the way, of course, is people get trapped, which is another loop of limit of beliefs. They get trapped in the belief that their limiting beliefs are in some way useful to them.
yeah.
And so yeah, and that just opens another door.
So give me an example of that. The limiting beliefs are somehow useful to them.
Um, well, the big chunk is a limiting belief that I can't get well. I have an illness. We do
Yeah,
that a lot. People with chronic illnesses, they're given a label, they're given a diagnosis, and often with chronic ill health, it's a very general one, which is, well, we don't really understand what's going on, but yeah, it's you're going to have pain for the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to. So they're given this bundle of, and they're not even beliefs that are being given often. They're just, and they're words that kind of glue.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then there is learned helplessness.
Yeah.
And then the benefit to being a victim of the learned helplessness is to stay immobilized And to stay immobilized means you don't have to take responsibility
Yeah.
for the results you get in the world.
This is brilliant. You know what? It reminds me of that story that Dr. Banda told us about when he was in hospital and the doctor came in with a wheelchair and said, you know, this is going to be your new best friend. And he was like, there's no one in the chair, which instantly he's already having a belief battle with a
Yeah.
healthcare visitor. But it's even me. Because I remember my boss once saying to me, Chris, you could be the first black national sales manager. And I looked at her and I said, and so she was kind of saying, listen, I'm here for you,
Yeah.
be great, blah, blah, blah. But in my mind, I was like, well, I've never seen one before. And actually, are you doing this to set me up and then drop me? Right. And so in
Ooh.
my mind, I was like, there's never going to be a black national sales manager. But actually, what that meant was I didn't have to try any harder.
Mm.
Right.
And that's a benefit to holding the belief.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Because
but the
it,
reality was I did
yeah.
become one, and I sent her a photo of my name with the thing there just to close the loop for her as well, just to let her know that her belief was worthy and it worked, because it
So
was practical.
she had a belief for you,
Yes, that's
and
right.
of you.
Yeah,
And when you have somebody significant in your life
yeah,
who believes that you can do more than you're currently doing, or that, as you said, you didn't have a reference for what that would look like, but somebody else could create that belief.
mhm.
And she didn't really install it though, did she? But she led
No,
the way.
no, no. She left. I
Yeah.
left there thinking, have I just said it was my appraisal, right? So have I just left there arguing why I shouldn't go for a promotion? That's what I started thinking in my brain. So, and then that got me really thinking like, okay, so I said that to her. Do I actually believe it? And I looked around, so I was looking for evidence,
Yeah.
and there was no one at that level. But there were some people kind of nearly at that level that I looked up to. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'm an idiot to not to kind of continue that thought process. So I just thought, well, let me go for it and see what happens. And lo and behold, I got a role. So
So
yeah,
you had a you so the information came in and then you worked into it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I kind of thought if I don't want she's given me this all this great positive uplifting thoughts and she believed it and she wanted me to believe it, right? And I didn't. But then I made myself believe it because I thought, well, she said there were no women who were managers 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and look, I'm sitting here doing your appraisal.
Yeah.
So there's just enough in there to
Yeah.
challenge my beliefs and thought processes, just to open the door.
Yeah. Get it stretchy.
Yeah,
That's often, all I'm looking for is just to get something just stretched a little
yeah,
playable
yeah,
rather than in cement and
exactly.
immovable. Oh, that will never happen for me. I can't do that. Stop. And then there's
Yeah,
no forward movement in growth, is there?
they're absolutely.
What, so in that scenario, you must have had another packet of beliefs around there's something deeper in there, isn't there? Because
Yeah,
somewhere in that conversation within your own mind, you were questioning your own capability with an open door.
yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah.
must have had somewhere a belief set that, well, even if there's no evidence, you can still test to see what's possible.
Yeah, and I think probably because I read too many books. I mean, there's a great book called The Magic of Thinking Big, and I think I was
Yeah.
probably reading that at the time, which then, everyone knew I was, as a sales rep. They were all my other sales rep friends used to mock me for all my reading books. I was always reading positive stuff, right? And that one I was reading, and it was all about, these people have come from nothing and they've become something. Do you know what I mean? There
I
were all
do, I
those sort of
do.
zero to
Yeah.
hero stories.
Yeah.
So of course you read those enough and you start to think, oh, that could happen for me.
Yeah. And that's the magic, isn't it, of reading about other people.
Yes, it really is. It really is.
But
You know?
again, you're still going through this process in the early days of filtering
Yes.
for books to read that in some way we're going to give you potential strategies
Yes.
for expanded consciousness and a more open future. Whereas other people choose to filter, or maybe always not conscious choice, but filter for the evidence of the limitations that hold them stuck.
Absolutely. And I think this is why I was talking about the strategy bit,
Yeah.
because, you could go away from that appraisal and go and talk to loads of other people who look the same as you, who haven't really
Yeah.
achieved what you're trying to achieve. And they go, yes, of course you won't be able to achieve. That lady, she's, it's all right for her, you know, she comes from a different world, but us, we're not destined for those things. They won't let us get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you listen to that enough, right, then you'll stay where you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
Which
is repetition, isn't it?
it
That
is, that goes back to the
constant
repetition.
narrative. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I,
Does.
I think that obviously you had, and I know because we've talked in friendship about this, you had some really powerful mentor-like
Yes.
people in
Yeah.
your life, in
Yeah.
your extended family and in your
Yeah.
community, people that inspired you and believed in you and in some way helped to shape you. And that, of course, is true for all of us. The consciousness of that in a family scenario, in a family system,
Yeah.
I think we can influence to be more careful
Yeah.
about how you are influencing each other in a dynamic situation, but also the young, spongy minds. But very
Yes.
young minds are so suggestible.
Yeah.
Certainly in the first few years, those brains are so suggestible. They're just imprinting whatever the system beliefs are.
Yes.
So, bringing your consciousness to it as a parent, I think, is that's what we need to grow a more vibrant next generation.
It's really interesting because it's so easy. And I guess the intention is to protect your children, to give them just keep repeating belief after belief after belief after belief, which is your belief. But then, in my mind, I don't want to mess my kids up.
But even that belief,
I know.
even that belief is, yeah, and I get it. Again, we've had many conversations on this, and I come from the other side of the fence. My kids are all in their 30s, so I can, breathe
Yeah.
but I know that the fear of messing
Yeah.
your kids up, it presupposes that it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where we need to take a bigger chunk, a step back and say, well, first of all, that there is no perfect way to bring up kids. I've never
No.
yet I've met very few parents who say, yeah, I got that right. I was a good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
ones who did were bordering on sociopathy.
Yeah.
So that, and each child is so unique that one size doesn't fit all. And so the bigger wound is created by running a belief that you could mess it up, because then that sets a state of fear and anxiety into the system.
Yeah.
And um, I I learned very much the hard way, and it, you know, some of this I it's not my story to tell. It belongs to my kids.
Yeah.
I I learned how to hold the belief. I formed a belief that eventually they will find their way, and they will find the path, they will find themselves, and it doesn't have to be on my terms. And it's not about the measurement of the school system or the, you know, the society that we live in. They will find their own path. And I have to say that, you know, they're in their 30s now, and that I'm so pleased I held that long game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the important thing, isn't it? And but it's being able to almost, well, see that far ahead
Yeah.
to be able to allow that to happen, you know?
And that's, again, that goes back to your point about strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That, you know, your ability to run your brain in different directions
yeah,
according to what it is you want to achieve. So, you know, we use the left hemisphere for our calculations and our plans and our contingency planning and
yeah,
our fears about us as individuals. And we run the right hemisphere, which is, well, you know, let's get creative here and let's think about the unity and the love and the big picture. And, you know, we're running up and down through time. And but that to me is that is it's a gift, and it's also something that we can get better at. Uh,
yes,
and so, you know, I think neurodivergent brains have an ability to do lots of that
yes,
extraordinary pathway searching in lots of different directions, often simultaneously,
yeah,
out of control. That
yeah,
leads to overwhelm, but
yeah,
with good training, it becomes a fantastic skill set. But even if you don't have that neurodivergent quality, and everybody can learn to grow new pathways
yes,
and new skill sets for thinking and feeling and doing, and I that just excites me so much, that
yes,
fundamental belief that no matter where you're at, what you do, what results you're getting today, there's always the opportunity to do more. And to your point about Richard Bandler, told he wouldn't walk again, proved them wrong. And that is, there's I know really good at recommending books and wisdoms to people. And the podcast I listened to recently, I listened to two podcasts of Diary of a CEO.
oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
And
What do you think? What do you think
what do I think?
of the chap that does
Oh,
Diary of a
Stephen
CEO?
Bartlett.
Yeah,
He's grown on me. He's
yeah, 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 and
grown
me,
on
and
me
me, and
through
me.
time, and
Yeah,
that's evidence based, because
yes,
initially I was actually probably not at all a fan,
no,
and almost a little polarity responding
yeah,
to the people who said, "Oh, you should listen to Stephen Bartlett."
I know.
But in the nature of my inner battles, I'm like, well, I'm not going to get limited by that
Yeah,
idea. I want
yeah,
to find out for myself in the same way I would do with politics. I want to understand both sides of the coin. So I started to listen to, and some of his podcasts have been beautiful conversations. His ability to hold a an excellent conversation. I know he has a team of researchers and everything's very thoroughly prepared,
yeah,
but he interviews very
really well.
excellently. So
Yeah.
so the two that I listened to recently were Brené Brown and
Oh, oh, brilliant. Sorry.
Jill Bolte Taylor.
Okay.
And so both of them I highly recommend. They're
Yes.
excellent
Yeah.
for very different reasons, but still in this business or that we're involved in, which is helping people to find beliefs that will drive them forward. Jill Bolte Taylor, I often refer to her in my work because she's a neuroscientist who had a stroke in her 30s.
Okay.
And as a neuroscientist, she understood what was happening as the stroke was happening.
Wow.
And she did a TED talk. I first found her about 10 or more years ago, and she did a big TED talk on it. And it's beautiful, really fantastic and interesting story. Um, she lost access to a very specific part in her left hemisphere for 8 years.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
relentlessly worked to get that circuitry back
Wow.
in working order. And and we know that this is possible with neuroplasticity. We know it, but when you hear somebody's first-hand example and somebody with such great articulation about the science and the medicine and the biology and the chemistry that is associated, it's spellbinding. And I love that. And that fundamentally, that's one of my big beliefs that we're unlimited in potential.
So that was Jill. What about Brene?
Brené Brown, I really liked listening to her because she resonates with me or I resonate with her, should I say, in that there's a there's a toughness about her because of some hard knocks, but at
Yeah.
the same time, she looks at life from loads of different perspectives.
Yeah, she does.
And that in itself, if you take away one strategy for living a better, happier, healthier life, it is being able to take lots of different perspectives.
Agreed.
And yeah, I think, yeah. So I'd recommend those two. My belief is that they are, no, I wouldn't say that's my belief. My sensory experience is that both of those interviews were were compelling to listen to.
And Stephen Bartlett was the good portal to make that happen.
Yeah,
Great, that's good. Good.
yeah.
That I now need to read Diary of a CEO, the book. I've obviously listened to some of his podcasts and they've been very good and they're definitely not raw, are they? They're very, like you said, well structured. But I think by doing that, he clearly gets the best very often out of the people who are on the other end of the podcast. So yeah, very good.
So, and actually, as you're speaking, the third one that I listened to of his recently, I go through spells of,
Yeah,
I'm sure you're the same.
I'm the same. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So obviously this October has been a Stephen Bartlett month. Um,
yeah.
I listened to Kamala Harris.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how you
Yeah,
pronounce
yeah, yeah. Kamala Harris.
it. And that shifted my beliefs about her because quite truthfully, I didn't like her in the
Elections.
run up to the election. Just we could analyze it. There would be no point, but I
No.
found her shallow and orchestrated, and yeah, there were just lots of things that in some way pressed a few buttons in me, and I just didn't like her. Listening to her in an unchoreographed way because that was the frame for the interview, was nothing's off limits, and she didn't know what questions she was going to be asked. She was totally open and honest, and again with some excellent steers from Stephen. I came away going, wow, you are really a much deeper thinking an acting person. I mean, I don't mean acting in the performance sense. I mean, in terms of behavioral actions. And her commitment to humanity shone through, which I didn't see in the
Yeah.
elections.
Yeah, and the challenge, I suppose, for her is you get dragged into a mudslinging fest, and some people are really good at doing the mudslinging, you know, and some
Yeah.
people are just focused on trying to help people, and so they're not very good at mudslinging. But so this is quite interesting because a couple of scenarios we've talked about here, there's been polarity response, hasn't there? So in other words, so like with Richard, with the Dr. Bandler, you know, with the wheelchair, for example, is one.
Yeah.
Or you know, you decided, or even me, you know, with my boss, I kind of could have listened to all the people around me that kind of thought that you know, this is really the way to, this is the belief to have. But I decided to go a different way. What's polarity responding all about?
That's a really interesting question, and I don't know because I think there are different. We use the term polarity response in NLP a lot because we're looking for it in a strategy.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's a reactive process, so we know it's a reaction rather than a response.
yeah,
Um, Often it's a stress reaction,
yeah,
um, and interestingly, it requires an external force to create movement in the individual. In fact, I just did a little piece on this recently where somebody had been talking about, well, yeah, you know, I'm a rebel, I'm a polarity responder, I'm a
yeah,
rebel.
yeah,
And actually, as I pointed out to them, that they needed the external conditions so that they could rebel
yeah,
against. So, you know, oh, Chris, my video's frozen.
yes.
Uh,
Shall I put, I'll pause for a second. Say you
so
were saying.
yeah, so the you know requires an external input in order to create a
Yeah.
movement in the person. And so there are different ways of looking at that. And the only question, as we know, is it useful or not? But if you can only make a life-changing decision in reaction to the outside world, then then they're pulling the strings.
Yeah, that's right.
And but equally, and know thyself, not one's not good, bad, right, wrong. If
No,
you know, if that is the way that you get your best work done,
yeah,
then you need to have some really good quality people around you.
yeah,
Um, so that you get the nudges. We call it a reactive meta program, don't we? In
yeah,
the NLP framework, reactive rather than proactive. So I think there's that aspect to polarity responding. Um, but there's, yeah, and I guess if we take Richard's example of, you know, he had a stronger belief in himself than the belief of the outside.
absolutely. There you go.
And
Yeah,
therefore, he took the reins of his autonomy. And that's, and if I sort of play that around, because I have some first-hand experience, and I know you do too, where because of that internal conversation you have with yourself, yeah, you take on board what the outside world's saying, but fundamentally you're bringing it back into your own container of your life plan, and you're running it from that life plan.
yeah,
And I think about I went through quite a long period of ill health, chronic ill health, which is why I'm so interested in working with people who are stuck. I know
Yeah,
what it's like to be stuck. I've been
yeah,
there. I understand that process. But somewhere in my path to healing was a question of what's possible. What am I capable of? What's possible for me as an organism? And I know that every cell renews itself every X number of weeks, depending on
yeah,
what the cellular structure is. So the question is, why is it just repeating the same code time after time,
yeah, that's right.
rather than making an augmentation and creating something? And that's where all of the other wonderful work that we do with NLP comes into. You create the well-formed outcome, you're very clear about what you want. And even when your picture of health wobbles, and mine absolutely did, and even from time to time still does a little bit, you have to have a belief structure
Yeah,
says this is just feedback,
yeah,
and what am I going to do with this information? So there is a polarity response to the what's going on in the outside world, but that version of it comes back to this is my um, metaphor is about this is my bus and I'm the driver.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, which is what you did when you talked to, that example of being told that you could be
Yeah,
the first Black national salesperson, um, and you took it in and did something with it.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
There's a polarity, and sorry, I think there's a third category of polarity response. I'm sure there's more. Um, when I dive into that in my mind, because there's also the people who are completely in, because so far we're talking about what does it take to move you forward.
Yeah,
But there are people who are completely immobilized because they're polarity responding inside their own head.
yeah, yeah,
I should go to the gym. Don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to the gym just because you told. Well, you really should, because otherwise you're going to be a blah 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 blah. Well, I'm not going to do. And they have this
yeah,
battle inside their minds, and then they're immobilized. And
yeah,
so the polarity response, rather than cut the crap, take responsibility for the
yeah.
results that you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is almost a good point to finish on.
Cut the crap, get
Yeah,
on with
I
your
know.
life,
I
take
know.
responsibility for the
Yeah,
results you're
that's
getting.
right.
And on another important note is it sounds easy, and it is when you know how,
How to.
but
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
the important thing.
skills.
Absolutely.
And there are lots of people who are highly skilled at helping you. So if you're stuck and you don't know how, then find somebody with good training. And the thing that binds us is the NLP world.
Absolutely.
So that's the one that I would speak to first.
Yeah,
What
agreed.
about you?
I,
What would
I
you
agree.
say?
I would say the same thing. I would definitely say talk to people who are great at kind of working, asking the right questions, elegant with a meta model, brilliant at kind of working with strategies and helping you
Yeah,
to install a new one or explore different strategies, to
yeah.
help shape different beliefs. And I think that's the key thing with all this. You can't, what do they say? Uh, why would we have a mind if we're not able to change it? And I think that's the same when it comes to our beliefs. you know.
Perfect.
Uh,
And one of the things I find very inspirational in you, Chris, is you have such a hunger and thirst for reading about other people's success stories.
yes, well, I love that.
So, that's a great way to expand your beliefs about the.
Exactly. And you don't have to take everything. You just I like it's like books are like a supermarket, and these are items off the shelf, and you can kind of go, okay. And it just depends on the time as well, doesn't it? And your state, all of those things. So fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Well, Kay, it's been brilliant.
Always a pleasure, Chris. Always
And
a pleasure.
and of course, I look forward to our next one, which will be C.
See.
And we have to think about what that C is going to be all
Mm.
about.
I'm curious
Yeah,
what
me
we
too.
might see.
Exactly. I love that. And you can't beat a bit of curiosity.
Yeah,
So
creativity mixed. I don't know. We'll see.
we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right.
See you at
Thanks a
sea.
million. Fantastic.
Take care. Ciao.
Bye.